The Madolche regional tops are back, and yeah, more expensive than ever. Look at this. Look at this. What the fuck? Why are we doing this? So this list was actually played by Brandon King. He made top 8 at his regional with this. Congratulations, good sir. I'm really happy that you sent this in. I'm actually really happy to even get to talk about this deck in general because, hey, all jokes aside, Madolche is an expensive deck. Also, the fact that he's not playing Ticket in his deck challenges a lot of the general opinions that people have had about this deck. Honestly, up until this point, it doesn't really shock me all that much, but, call it what it is. People are going to experiment, people are going to test ideas, and people are going to find success in them. So, this is honestly no different. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, pretty standard. Same thing with triple Effect Veiler, very standardized for what we're going for in this deck. And triple copies of Phantasmi. Honestly, you need this amount of hand traps because you're one of those decks like, watch me go second, hee hee. And then, if you don't get to do your thing going second, then, you're gonna have a very bad time. But that's fine. We have the triple copies of Madolche and Jelly, standard on a summon, do lone fiery things. Only 2 copies of Hoot Cake. Every time I've talked about these decks, there's always the discussion of, well, why aren't they playing 3 Hoot Cake, Robbie? Well, because triple Hoot Cake's actually kind of shit. Oh, and I apologize, he is playing Ticket. I'm dumb. But yeah, the big debate between this, 2 is absolutely fine. You don't want to bog down yourself any more than that. We have triple copies of the Madolche Mageline on Summon Search. 2 copies of Messenger Lotto. This is also very standardized. We have triple copies of Puting Susior and 1 copy of Pudding Sus. Very standard ratios as well here. Do not, under any circumstances, start trying to play like 2 Pudding Sus, things like that, because you're just asking to brick at that point. Like, keep your consistency where it is at this point. We have triple copies Called by the Grave. I give this speech every video, but it is very important to understand. This deck is fragile. If anything happens and you get hand trapped, you're going to have a bad time. And you're trying to be able to play the game. Issues start to arise and you're going to start affecting your consistency. And that's not something that you're going to want to have in this deck. So keeping this at the ratio it is absolutely mandatory. We have 1 copy of Chateau, 1 copy of Ticket, very standard. We've also definitely seen that this deck has become the deck that wants to draw cards. I think between this and Necros, but I mean, hell, this deck's got more tops than Necros at this point for this format. So the extravagance, I understand the Boral Sword for like an OTK, but like, hot diggity damn, like, you have 3 of them things. Like, Jesus. We have triple copies of Twin Twister, triple copies of Imperm, 1 copy of Judgment, 2 copies of Steve Reich, wrapping up the main deck though. But like I said, this is what I like to see in terms of my creativity. I like when players test the boundaries of things. I think that this build definitely does that. And here in the next deck, we have triple copies of Fresh Cyst Heart, triple copies of Boral Sword, triple copies of the Glass Floe, triple copies of Tiaramisu. We have triple copies of Shokla Alamode. We also have in the side deck triple copies of Lancia, triple copies of Brinkatops, triple copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, triple copies of Crackdown, triple copies of Red Reboot, wrapping this up. Seeing Crackdown on the side in a deck like this also is pretty interesting. I do like where this was going, actually. Congratulations, Brandon, on your regional top, buddy. I find this deck to be particularly interesting, just because of the tech choices and things like that, and like, we're pushing more of the innovation level on Madolche at this point, and like there's not a way to go about it. My friend's seen success without extravagance, but we've definitely seen more in competitive value that extravagance is probably the way to go in the current format, which is kind of shameful, but is what it is. Now, we've been looking at many Orcust decks. This is Tantum Layowski's 20th place regional list, and the reason I wanted to showcase this is to kind of show how far down the rabbit hole we've gone with Orcust. This deck continuously evolves in the current format, and it shouldn't really shock you just how degenerate this deck looks on paper. I would almost say in the bare minimum, this is what the deck looks like without, you know, the extra cool stuff, you know, playing a secondary engine. Like, this is the level of which we've evolved to. You know, of course, I talked about a couple weeks back about connector, was it really a staple or not in this deck? And looking at this build, yeah, literally just smash two monsters together and go the deck. Deck is very simple in terms of its combos and what it wants to do, and we do like that about this deck. So we have one copy of Armageddon Knight, Ripple copies of Junk Forward. I mean, once again, this plus any other monster starts your combo. Like, you have to understand that. That's why you have to play it. We have triple copies of Connector, one copy of Aqualat. Being able to rip something from our opponent's hand and not really give a shit about what we're ripping is pretty good. And if your opponent doesn't Ash the Connector, because they already know that Aquaman's coming, like, the Ash is getting ripped out of the hand anyway. So that's definitely something to understand as well. Like, you have to hold your pieces correctly. Sometimes Aquaman's going to do bad things. We have one copy of Symbol Skeleton, two copies of Harpor. This is pretty much a change from the two Symbol, the three Harpor I've seen, but I almost feel that that adds to too many bricks at times. Two copies of the Orcust Nightmare, one copy of the Ancient Cloak, one copy of the Silent Boots, and one copy of the World Wand itself. We have one copy of Ye Old Autonomous Action Unit. In mirror matches, this is pretty cute. Like, I actually really like this. Thanks, Hero or Warrior Orcust. We have triple copies Called by the Grave, one DDR, one Phoenix Blade, one Foolish Barrel, two copies of Instant Fusion, one Living Fossil, one Monster Reborn, one Babel, one Orchestrated Return, one copy of Foolish Barrel Overdone, one copy of Rhoda, one Hornet Drones, triple Twin Twister. We have two copies of the Crescenado. I don't think I've seen a build to this point play multiple copies of Crescenado. Like, that one's interesting to me. We have two copies of Fogblade and one copy of the Shade Brigadane. Extra deck down here, we have one copy of Topological Bomber Dragon, one Rusty, one Lungrisu, one Unicorn, one Phoenix, one Mermaid, one Isolde, two copies of Galatea, one Boral Sword, one Boralode, one copy of Time Thief Redoer, two Ding Dings, and one copy of Verasion. Side deck here, we have two copies of Lancia, two copies of the Ghost Ogre, two copies of Radion, two Sphere Mode, triple copies of Evenly, triple copies of Red Reboot, and one copy of Unending Nightmare, wrapping up this list. So like I said, a little bit of love to Warrior Orcust. I mean, what more do you want me to really tell you? You're still going to go into a Soul Day, you're going to still attempt to do all of your Orcust things, you're going to deck thin. The only downside here is you're playing 52% more dead bricks in your deck, because that's all equip spells really are, just dead bricks waiting for you to draw them. And then the last list I have today is a True Draco list that was sent in to me from Michael Bernard. He ended up topping locals with this. I'm only really including this in this video because I found the inclusion of Summon Curse to be interesting. So if a monster is special summoned, the controller of that monster banishes one card from their hand. Once per turn during the end phase, pay 500 life points or destroy this card. Just a little interesting tech choice that players are kind of testing. You know, force your opponent to burn through their resources. And it essentially puts a timer on the field, well, until, you know, your opponent doesn't really give a shit and just combos through anyway. So, it doesn't really matter once said combo goes. But, hey, you're trying to eat away from your opponent's resources. I get it. It's cute. So we have one copy of Dynamite, triple copies of Ignis Heat, two copies of Majesty Maiden, triple copies of Dragonic Diagram, one copy of Mystic Mine, two copies of Terraforming, triple copies of Cardamise, triple copies of True Draco Heritage, triple copies of The Disciples, one copy of Upstart Goblin, two copies of Duality, one Summoning Curse, two copies of Waterfall, triple Strike, triple copies of Erupt, triple Crackdown, one True King's Return, and triple copies of Apocalypse. No extra deck, of course, because we are playing the good card. Side deck, we have triple copies of Prankatops, triple copies of Sphere Mode, one copy of Summon Curse, triple copies of There Can Only Be One Impure Order, two copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, and two copies of Heavy Storm Duster, wrapping up Michael's list here. So like I said, guys, I'm pretty impressed by everything that we've kind of seen coming out of all of these events. More Madolche topping does not surprise me in the least. You know, we're literally almost a month away from the WCQ now, which means that all these decks, Innovations, Mystic Mine, coming up on a ban list, soon. Like, it definitely warms my heart with where we're going. So congratulations to the three of you for doing well at your events, guys. Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think about these decks, and well, guys, I'm out. The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a truffle shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out Vancol40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.